And good evening, everybody. This is Cruz, the Beast from the East, and you're listening to Cruz Inc. Radio 102.8 live stream television. We thank you for being here with us another Thursday evening, and we have another dynamite show for you tonight. We're going to be speaking with none other than a man that everybody is very familiar with. As you all know, he pulls no punches. He doesn't care whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican, independent, vegetable, moon man, whatever you may be. He's going to bring it to you straight, and he's going to bring it to you raw. And that's what people love about Joe is that, again, he pulls no punches. And tonight we're going to be talking about several different topics. This is the update from the General Assembly with State Senator Joe Morrissey for the 16th District. Good evening, Joe. Good to see you again.
Cruz, good evening, and it's an honor to be back on Cruz Radio. Thank you for having me.
And again, we really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to update Central Virginia and everybody that's watching across the state and around the world, because all eyes have been on Virginia for a long time, and it continues to be on us. And so tonight, you're going to be bringing us some information that I think that we're going to be interested in, that the viewers are going to be interested in. So we have a great format to start. So tell us, I want to let everybody know from the beginning here, if you have any questions, make sure you put them on the Cruz Inc. Radio Facebook page so that we can see all of the questions. Again, if you have any questions, please write them in the comments of the Cruz Inc. Radio Facebook page, and we'll be checking those, and we'll be answering questions when time permits. Joe, what's going on in the General Assembly?
You know, Cruz, we went back into session pursuant to the governor's order that the General Assembly reconvene to cover really two main topics: COVID-19 relief and related matters, and also police reform, which includes sentencing reform. So we have been meeting for over 2 weeks. We'll be back in there tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And Cruz, we've made some progress.
Okay.
I think one of the most important bills that just got out of the Senate is a bill that I introduced that will now allow defendants who are on trial to have a jury trial, but a judge sentencing. So here's what has been happening for the last, 100 plus years. A prosecutor will make an offer to a defendant. And let's say the case is a 12-month case. Prosecutor will say 4 years, take it or leave it. And the defendant says, well, I'm going to leave it. And the prosecutor says, then I demand a jury trial. That's code for jury sentencing, and that's code for decades. The defendant could go to trial, the jury could find him guilty, give him 30 years, and he turned down a 4-year sentence. So now, with this bill, the defendant can avail himself of a jury trial, but still have a judge sentence. And the judge has the guidelines. And the guidelines say 2 years to 3 years or 2 years to 4 years. So this just brings Virginia into the realm of what 44 out of 50 states are doing, as well as the federal system. Cruz, I can say this without fear of contradiction. If this bill has already gotten out of the Senate, We hope to get it out of the House. It is transformational as far as criminal justice reform in Virginia. It's huge. I introduced a bill barring chokeholds in the Commonwealth. That bill is going to get out of the Senate. We have just at the end of last week, we passed a bill that eliminated a mandatory minimum for assault on a police officer.
Joe, before we go there, because I have a question about the judge jury sentencing,
Sure.
because again, is it a crapshoot? And I know that's what a lot of fellows are saying, is that, yeah, there's a bill on, but how is that going to help a defendant, when you roll the dice like that, whether you go before the jury and the judge? Can you, first of all, take us back to how it was before this bill, and again, kind of break down how this now is going to level out the playing field?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I'll take a case right now that I'm reviewing. It's a case in Hopewell. I'm reviewing the transcript. The defendant was convicted of assaulting a police officer. They got into a scuffle, okay? The police officer saw him in a trailer park in Hopewell. The police officer knew there was an outstanding capias for his failure to show up in court. Ironically, the defendant had gone to court the day before to clear up the matter and told the court that he got the dates wrong. Judge released him. He says, I don't have any charge. They scuffled. They're on the ground. The defendant, with his left hand, takes a closed knife out of his sheath, and he's struggling, and he hits him twice in the neck, twice in the head. The prosecutor offered, I believe it was like 3 years on that. Defendant said, listen, I was scuffling with him because I didn't know who he was. He didn't have a uniform. He didn't have a badge. There was no police car. He was driving his own vehicle. He didn't have the warrant with him, and I had no idea who it was.
Wow.
The police officer had a bandage on his head. He was out of the hospital in 2 hours, back at work the next day. He had some staples and stitches, and that was his defense. I didn't know who it was. I didn't know if he was a police officer.
Right.
He rejected the plea from the Commonwealth for 3 years. The jury found him guilty of malicious wounding of a police officer and gave him 26 years.
Wow.
The judge said at sentencing, I may not have given that, but you took a jury trial. You're stuck with that. And Cruz, this happens every single day in the Commonwealth in 133 different jurisdictions. And I call it a runaway jury.
Right.
They don't have the sentencing guidelines. And if you get a conservative jurisdiction, and let's say the charge is distribution of a gram of heroin, by no means am I condoning that at all. But in the realm of things, it's a guideline case of 14 months. A jury in a conservative jurisdiction could hand down 4 decades.
Wow.
So this bill says if he's found guilty, then the judge does the sentencing. It's transformational.
Okay.
All right. And I hope that example answered your question.
Right, and it does, and it kind of leads into another question, because I saw something today, and there was a scuffle, and the person was the officer told him he was going to be charged with assault. Now, it seems, Joe, that even if you brush an officer,
great question,
that you can get an assault. Is that reaching, or is what's on the books concerning what is assaulting an officer versus, some officer? It's because a lot of times it's a natural instinct for us to kind of, somebody grab us or whatever to,
It's a wonderful question, and you're very prescient to ask that. First of all, an assault is merely this. Let's say somebody goes like this and pushes me, okay?
Right.
That's an assault. Often, when a police officer and a defendant are scuffling, he's pulling away. what's sometimes known as resisting.
Right.
Or sometimes he brushes into the, as you said, the police officer. One of my colleagues read in the chamber an example where a defendant was upset and threw an onion ring at the police officer. Another one, a student in high school pointed a laser pointer at the chest of a school resource officer, and the judge said that's an assault. But importantly, two things.
Okay.
Irrespective of what the force is, it's a felony. So if I'm a defendant and I just push, somebody like this, okay, a police officer, that's a felony. Mandatory 6 months in jail. Now, we changed it this year so that there's no mandatory minimum, but still a minor touching becomes a felony. And I don't believe that's correct. And we're going to continue to work on that part of the law.
Yeah, do, because when an officer approaches suspect or alleged suspect, and that he reads his sheet and he sees that at some point in time that he probably assaulted an officer, which wasn't a full-on assault, wouldn't that change the complexity of how that officer perhaps would deal with that defendant or that suspect?
It's the only case in Virginia where the same person is the investigating police officer, the victim, the witness at trial, and the person that places the charge. Follow me on this.
Go ahead.
A police officer is upset at a defendant for whatever reasons. Maybe he pushed him. And that person, that police officer, is the person who decides what charge to take out. The police officer is the victim.
Uh-huh.
The police officer is the witness that testifies in court. All right. It's beyond the pale, Cruz. So we have to change that, and we're slowly getting there.
That's good to know, Joe. And one other little caveat that I know we got quite a few things to talk about. Does the magistrate in that particular case or a case like that have the boundaries to perhaps look at what the defendant is saying, what the officer has written down, and determine if that charge should hold up or not?
Sure. And last week I was on, and you had one of your co-hosts who's a former magistrate, Geraldine Lundy. And she'll tell you, sure, the magistrate has discretion, but here's the fact. The magistrate said, were you assaulted? And an assault is an unlawful touching, no matter how slight. That's the language.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a push. This is an assault. Then the magistrate says, are you a police officer? Yes. Did he bump into you? Did he push your arm? Did he brush up against you? Yes. Did you consent to that? No, I didn't. That's it.
Wow.
Only warrant for assaulting a police officer. Okay. Mandatory minimum 6 months in jail. That young student that shot that pointed the laser printer at the chest, bad judgment, but got a minimum of 6 months in jail. No discretion.
And that's an automatic felon.
Yeah, plus ruins the person's life. It's an automatic felony.
Wow.
But I'm going to get that changed. It should be no more than a misdemeanor.
Joe, I wish you luck on that, because you're right.
I don't need luck. I'm going to get it done, Cruz. You know me.
That's right. I forgot who I was talking to. Absolutely.
Get it done.
Now, you were talking about some other reform that you're working on that's in the GA as well.
Here is a big problem that goes on all the time. And your listening audience right now is going to say, or viewing audience is going to say, yep, that's right. That happened to me. A defendant is pulled over, usually black or brown, primarily, and the person is stopped for a minor offense. During the course of it, the police officer checks the license, sees that the person is licensed, comes back, and the police officer says, okay, your license. By the way, do you mind if I search your vehicle? And the driver will say, well, in fact, I do mind. No. The police officer then says, well, I smell marijuana. Get out of the car. I'm searching the car. Now, I promise you on my children's lives that people listening to this right now say, yep, I'm aware of that. And then the car is searched. Now, we just passed a law that said that you cannot search an automobile based on the mere presence of an odor of marijuana. Okay?
Okay.
So I think that's huge. You know what's interesting about this is I remember in court one time, a prosecutor put the police officer on and they searched the car. And in the car, they found a gun and some small amount of cocaine, neither of which I might add smells like marijuana.
Okay, right.
The gun doesn't smell like marijuana, and a gram of cocaine doesn't smell like marijuana. And the judge said, well, obviously he was right because he smelled marijuana and look what he found. I said, Judge, I don't care if he found a body in that truck, in the car, a dead body. He smelled marijuana. What does that have to do with a gun and cocaine?
Right.
And then another time, they found marijuana in there. And the judge says, yep, I guess he's got a good nose. I said, no, Judge, here's what's happening. 20 other people were stopped. And the officer said, I smell marijuana. And they searched the car. And they didn't find marijuana in 19 of those cases.
Right.
That person goes on down the road. We don't hear about that. But then they find the car. You're eventually going to find marijuana. Do you follow me?
Right.
But we've changed that. No longer does the odor of marijuana serve as a basis for searching a car. And that bill was just passed.
That's awesome. That's all. Now,
excuse me, it passed the Senate. It's got to come through the House and then signed into law by Governor Northam.
Can you not skate on, but talk about probable cause? Because again, that's something that you
Sure.
were in that line of odor of weed or marijuana.
Probable cause is simply this, that the investigating police officer, detective, has probable cause to believe that a crime is being committed, okay? Now, if you smell marijuana, there is a law in the books that says possession of marijuana is illegal. By the way, we've just changed that from a criminal penalty to a civil penalty, okay? But if it's illegal, then and he smells marijuana, then there's probable cause to believe that there's marijuana in the car and that a crime is being committed in his presence, okay? So, and then right below probable cause is a concept called reasonable articulable suspicion. And that is that the police officer has reasonable articulable suspicion to believe that a crime is being committed. And it's a notch right below probable cause. So we don't seek in the Senate to change the law associated with probable cause, but simply saying that there's an odor of marijuana, okay, doesn't give you the authority to search a car. Okay?
Right.
There's lots of times somebody might be around where marijuana is being smoked. It's on the clothes and the hair.
Right.
We know what I'm talking about. Doesn't mean that the person is breaking the law. So anyway, those are two substantial reforms. No barring chokeholds passed. Passed the Senate. Jury trial, judge sentencing. No search of a car because of an odor of marijuana. No mandatory minimum sentence for assault on an LEO, a law enforcement officer. So we're getting there.
So, Joe, again, and we got to appreciate what you're doing, the bills that you're passing. When you came into office, I remember we had this segment, Joe Morrissey running for state Senate. You have stayed true to your platform, and people want to know, and a question came in is that with sometimes the odds that are seem like they're stacked against you, you find a way to fight for the people. And somebody said you are the only probably politician that can go into a Gilpin court or Mosby court or anywhere in the city of Richmond, and people will listen to Joe Morrissey? What do you contribute that to?
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that. And I do remember that interview. And I told you, I said, Cruz, I ran for the Senate in order to get substantial criminal justice reform. And I'm doing just that. That's the reason I'm here. I told somebody the other day, if I get this jury trial, judge sentencing, that could be, I may never get anything as better than that in my career, but that's what I'm striving to do. And that's what I'm going to do. With regard to walking into any court, listen, I walk in there and, you know, the folks are going to say, hey, Joe, they're going to come over. We're going to talk. There's no, I mean, I don't want to sound too trite, but it's almost like, you know, I can see family, you know, they're going to treat me wonderfully because they know my commitment to helping the underdog, to helping the have-not, to helping the person that isn't as blessed as I am is real and it's sincere. It's not trendy. I was, you know, remember there's a song, I was country before country was cool?
Right.
I was for BLM before BLM was cool. Now it's a little trendy, you know?
Right.
A lot of folks, and good, for whatever reason, they're there, okay? But I understand people that, I've been there. They think they got you down and they put the thumb on down and then they put their foot on top of you. And people are like that. And the way I teach my kids, you get back up, you stand back up and you keep moving forward. And people recognize whether it's Mosby Court or Creighton Court or Gilpin Court in Hopewell, Public Housing Projects, Petersburg, that Joe Morrissey will fight for them, will defend them. And you know what's interesting now is I'm just now doing in the General Assembly what I did on a much smaller scale in the courtroom.
Okay.
And, let me be very clear. They came after me and I'm still here.
Hello. You know, there's a thing that said real recognize real. And I know we were at an event and that I invited you to, and this guy just out of, you know, everything that was going on, he saw you like, yo, that my boy Joe right there. There's Joe Morrissey, you know, and that just goes to, again, about trust and integrity and building a relationship with the community in which you have. And my segue is that, would you say, in your opinion, that this is what we have to do when you talk about police reform? We have to build that same type of trust, get to know the community, and so that when officers are out in our community, that they can perhaps be a little bit more proactive than reactive. What do you think about that, Joe? Sure.
Listen, whenever you can build a relationship with somebody, do it, okay? And it's funny because I'm out with my kids, and wherever we are, wherever we go, I'll talk to people. Hey, folks, how are you? And Bella, my 4-year-old, say, Daddy, how come you say hi, folks, to everybody? How come everybody knows you? And I said, honey, we see each other around, or I might know their family member, or they, you know, I've been around a while, honey. Yeah, but Daddy, how does everybody know you? And I said, because you're always out there, honey, and you're going to be doing this someday. You're out there. What is the most important thing in the world, Bella? She'll say, to be nice, Daddy. I said, that's right. Wow. It's nice to be important, but it's much more important to be nice. And so I think it's really as simple as that. You listen to people, you're out there, you're engaged with them, and you're going to always get benefits from it. I actually see some benefits now from the atrocities that we've seen with George Floyd and Blake. Mm-hmm. And that is, we're going to, here are the benefits. I think we're going to get a better caliber of police officer. Okay. We're going to get officers that should not be on a force. They're going to be out, and the other officers are glad that that's happening. Okay. We're going to get better communication. We're going to get people that are more sensitive to other people's situation, you know? And I've got 4 little African-American children, and I want them to grow up in a world where they don't see color at all. And that's the way it is right now. They are entirely innocent. I got a 7, a 5, a 4, and a 2. they don't see color at all, you know, and you know, their mother is darker than their dad. That's what they see. I want that to last as long as possible. Okay, I am. I want to see a situation where when people see people of mixed races walking down, it's nothing. It's no big deal. It's the norm.
Right.
My, you know, when kids come over to our house, we have no idea who's coming over. Black, white, Latino. The kids don't know. Okay.
Exactly. Right.
They don't, seriously. They look at their mother, and okay, so she's darker and she's wearing a red shirt, and daddy's lighter and he's wearing a green shirt. Okay, that's the way they look at it. They can't distinguish between color. It's only as you get older and you are ingrained with certain attitudes are you know, impressed upon you that you start forming biases. Okay.
Absolutely.
I'd like to think I don't have those biases, and that's reflected where I go, okay, and whom I'm with. So all I can say is I think we're continuing to move in that direction, Cruz. Okay, and I'm comfortable in any environment.
Yeah, you see Gerald in there wants to, give you kudos for being connected.
I see Miss Geraldine. Geraldine Smith was the first African American magistrate in Henrico County. I think I have that right. And so I've known Geraldine for a long time, and a wonderful mentor and leader in the community. And she's a real person.
Absolutely. And Joe, what we're going to do is we're halfway through the show tonight. We're going to take a 30-second break, and we'll get back because we got some more hot topics to deal in, want to talk about it. And let me say this real quick, Joe, as before we go into our 30-second break here, is people need to understand where you are in the General Assembly, especially when it comes to the Commonwealth of Virginia. When they complain about the laws, when they talk about, certain things being done, then that is where they need to make their voice heard.
Let's cover that topic as soon as you get back. Somebody that has a burning issue, and I'll give you some real life example. Okay.
All right, we'll be back in 30 seconds.
All right, man.
All right, everybody, welcome back. This is your boy Cruz, the Beast from the East, and I just wanted to let you know if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comment sections of the Cruz Inc. Radio Facebook page. We're going to try to answer your questions. We certainly appreciate all our viewers for turning in tonight. We are having a great conversation with State Senator Joe Morrissey, who is the representative for the 16th district. That district includes part of South Richmond, some of, Petersburg, Hopewell, and part of Dinwiddie. So again, we appreciate you guys being with us this evening. If you have any questions for Joe, Joe is not afraid to answer any questions. And if he doesn't know the answer, one thing I do know about Joe, he'll say, let me get back with you on that. And that he has done ever since I've known him. And he's a man of his word. Joe, I was asking you about lawmaking and, of course, the General Assembly and some of my studious stuff, because I'm a history buff. It is the oldest governing body in the Western Hemisphere. I think it's over 100 years old. There are 100 delegates and 40 senators. Is my math correct on that one?
Continuing meeting legislature in the Western Hemisphere, in the New World, and began in Jamestown in 1619. So we, after approximately 80 years, they moved from Jamestown to Williamsburg, okay? And then after another approximately 80 years, they moved from Williamsburg to Richmond, and have been here ever since. So we've had, three capitals, okay? Richmond, Williamsburg, and Jamestown. And that bicameral legislature has been meeting for 4 centuries.
Wow, that's incredible, man. I mean, there's a lot of history here, a lot of things that, again, as I stated in the beginning, all eyes are on Richmond. And going back to the question before the break, talking about if people have burning issues.
Sure. Here's what you do. If you have something that's on your mind, don't think you need to go to your legislator, set up an appointment. Nothing gets my attention more than when a constituent calls my office to set up an appointment. They come in my office and they sit down and they said, "Hey, Mr. Morrissey, hey, Joe, I'm so-and-so, and I'm your constituent. I am all ears." That's the only reason I'm there as a legislator, is because of them, all right? And here's a little secret. I introduced a lot of bills last year. I introduced a lot of legislation. People often come up and say, "That was a great piece of legislation." You want the secret?
What's the secret, Joe?
Often it's other people have told me about it. My constituents have said, we need this. For example, I introduced legislation that would end the practice of suspending somebody's driver's license because of unpaid fines and cost.
Wow.
Okay, somebody goes to court, and they, get a ticket for speeding, and they can't pay it, so they don't pay it. Then their license is suspended, and then it compounds it. Well, what are we going to do? Not let that person drive, and then the cycle continues. So I introduced legislation that said if your license is suspended, okay, it cannot be suspended just because of unpaid fines and costs.
Right.
Well, that wasn't my idea. It's a beautiful, wonderful idea, but it was a constituent that told me about it. Okay. I talked about banning chokeholds. Constituents said we've got to do that. You've heard of civilian review boards.
Right.
I've introduced legislation and supported legislation to create civilian review boards. That's a constituent's idea. All right. I believe that if somebody has a misdemeanor conviction or a felony conviction, that we ought to expunge it after a certain number of times. They shouldn't have to wear around that scarlet letter. If they had a felony conviction 12 years ago or more, and they've lived a stellar life since then, why don't we expunge that? Give them that second chance, okay?
Right.
I was in favor of parole for fishback defendants. We now have it. Parole for juveniles who got 20 years or more. We now have it. I want, again, constituents come up with these ideas, and you know what I do, Cruz?
What's that, Joe?
I listen. I listen to what they say, and if you're in my office, they've heard me say it so many times. That is a great idea. I put it in my file for pending legislation, and I'll introduce it during the 2021 session. So I've just told the world my secret. It's not my great ideas, but it's people coming to me that say, "What about this, Joe?" And then it turns into law.
I want to read this comment. Thank you, Ms. Colette Coco Davis. She said, "We need more people like Joe who will fight for the disadvantaged." And I think that, again, continues to resonate throughout your entire career, as you said, as a defense attorney, as someone that was in the House of Delegates, now a state senator. Joe, even if you're not in politics or anything like that, will you continue to be that champion for the people? Is that something that's just in your DNA?
It is. It is. Here's my main goal for the next 25 years. Okay, I've got to raise 4 little kids, put them through college, grad school, and then my time on this earth is going to be up. Pretty close to it. Okay, so I want to raise 4 happy, healthy, productive, purposeful citizens. I want them to be good people. I don't care if they're the governor of Virginia or they are a elementary school pre-K teacher. I want them to be happy. I want them to be productive, and I know that they can be happy and productive if they're helping others. So the answer is, listen, if I'm, if I'm out of politics, whether by choice or because I am voted out of office, yeah, I am going to continue to do what I can to make my community better. And I want my kids to see that, I want them to grow up thinking, how do we help others,
Right.
And if I, if I can do that, I will really be successful.
Joe, as I stated from the beginning coming in, that we said that, you're a person that you're going to call a spade, a duck, no matter, their political clout or connection to the community. One of the things that, again, we want to talk about is this uproar in the city last week about a secret bid for the removal of the statues.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's disgraceful. Yes, of course, I'm a senator and I'll call a Democrat. And if I see somebody in my party that's done something wrong, I'll call them out. Here's what happened. The mayor spent $1.8 million, that's an M, $1 million, and gave a contract to somebody to remove the statues. Now, here's the problem with that. Number one, it was not a competitive bid. It didn't go out there into the community. Number two, the company that got the bid, 10 days before they got the bid, they created a shell corporation, a dummy corporation. Okay? I can create a corporation on my computer tonight with the State Corporation Commission, and I'll have the document tomorrow. Okay?
Okay.
10 days before they created a dummy corporation, and that corporation was in the business of removing statues. The person got $900,000 up front and $180,000 a day for minimum of 5 days.
Wow.
Not a bad deal. The person who got it, he had 5 employees. They took all the statues down in 5 days. They rented $20,000 worth of equipment, maybe had $30,000, $40,000 in the job. $1.8 million. That person also happened to be a large donor, political donor of the mayor's. Now, if that doesn't smell like a salty, smelly mackerel that's washed up on the beach, I don't know what is. I build, renovate homes. I've rented equipment. I could have rented that equipment for 20 grand, hired a crew of 5 for $1,000 a day. Okay. And paid $10,000 in salary, put them up in the hotel for Marriott for a week, dinner at Morton's every night. My total expenses are going to be 30, 40 grand. I talked to 6 developers in the city, 6 contractors. They said they would have made a great profit if they charged $100,000.
And we paid.
It was $1.8 million, and it needs to be investigated because it smells. And I don't care if the person that did it, the mayor, is a Democrat. I don't care if it's Democrat, Republican, independent, libertarian, vegetarian, member of the Whig Party. I don't care. It's wrong, and I'm going to speak out on it.
Now, Joe, just for the sake of our viewers, and that I'm gonna be the company's attorney that created the Shale company, and I'm gonna say that for the sake of argument, that my client created that Shale company because of the volatility of removing the statues and to protect my company, my family. So that's why we created the Shale company.
What a bunch of crap. Okay, let's be clear. Number one, anybody down there wants the statues gone. So whoever's removing them, there's going to be people along there clapping, right?
Okay.
The people that say that don't want them, maybe the residents of Monument Avenue. Do you think somebody living in a $600,000 house on Monument Avenue is going to go after and attack the contractor who's lifting up the statue? Of course not. Listen, what you have to do is you have to put that bid out publicly. Okay? That wasn't done. Also, the city attorney, Haskell, told Mayor Stoney, you can't do this. You have got to go before city council and get their approval. He didn't do it. He says there's an emergency. Really? There's an emergency to remove the statutes. It only became an emergency when his political career started to shatter because people were looking at him. Remember, there were 400 people that showed up, mostly black, that showed up at City Hall with signs that said, Stoney resign.
Right.
When he tried to join the protest, they booed him away. So then he fired one police chief. Then he fired another one. He's trying to get that base back, and he's doing it trying to curry favor with them. But he didn't follow the law. He didn't. And if it was so legal to do, then just put it out for public bid, okay? Cruz, you could have gotten that bid.
Mm-hmm.
You could have bid $200,000. You know what you're going to do? You're going to hire a subcontractor to rent the equipment, pick up the statutes, and move it away. You're going to get the job done for 50, and you put 150 large in your pocket.
Right.
Not a bad deal for a week, okay? $1.8 million. That's a year's salary for 45 teachers. All right, that's 8,000 computers for kids that don't have it in Richmond. I'm upset that my money was squandered. Kim Gray sent a letter to the Commonwealth Attorney to investigate. She says it's not my call, it's the AG's. So I hope the AG steps in.
Now, Joe, one of the things that, again, that I've heard, and again, this is just, I tread lightly here, that $1.8 million came from public works money, which means that there are not going to be any infrastructure repairs.
Sure, right.
And that we're at the crust of a real estate property increase to offset that $1.8 million. Is that generally how these things
you move money from one account to another, and as you know, we have a problem with getting potholes fixed, streets repaired, leaves picked up, snow removed. Public Works, they're wonderful employees over there. They're about 20 employees shy of a full shop, but they came up with 1.8 million. Really? Do you remember 3 years ago? With the schools, they couldn't find $200,000 to clean the bathrooms, to fix the bathrooms in elementary schools, and people came down to volunteer.
Right.
But you can find $1.8 million to remove the statutes, and you do it without city council approval. Contrary, the city attorney told Mayor Stoney, you can't do this. The only emergency was saving his own career, and it's wrong. And I don't, I'm a Democrat, he's a Democrat, but I'm going to call it the way I see it, my friend.
So, and again, so that our viewing audience would know two things here. One, that contracts like that should go out to the public before and it has to be is it a sealed bid that's made, Joe, or? It's
got to be it's called an RFP, a request for a proposal. And it comes back in and it's sealed and it said, I'll do the job for such and such. Okay.
Okay.
And here's the thing. Here's the mayor's office said, well, we called 6 contractors in the city. None of them could do that. So we had to go out of town. This person had to organize, create a dummy corporation. Well, guess what I did today?
All right. Help us.
I called 6 of the largest contractors in Richmond. You know who they are, the big boys.
Right.
Many of them are African-American contractors. I said, by the way, did the mayor's office ever call you about this job? One contractor told me, Joe, that's the damnedest thing. I did get a call and they said, what do you think about this? How could you move a statute? Well, what would you replace the statute with? And they did everything but say, would you give us a bid? They didn't ask, They didn't make the ask, but it gives them cover to say we reached out to 6 companies. Do you follow me?
Right.
Let me tell you this. On my children's life, if you bid $500,000 on that job, you're going to make a huge profit. $1.8 million. Every contractor I spoke to said, I would have loved to have that bid. I wasn't asked to make the bid. I asked them, how much would it cost to rent that equipment? One contractor said, Joe, I've got that equipment, so I don't have to rent it. I said, could you have taken it down in 5 days? He says, yeah, of course. Do you have the crew? Yeah. Okay, do the math. He's got the equipment. He's got the employees. He could have it all done in a week. 100,000? Think he'd do it for 100 grand? Damn right. 50 grand he'd do it for.
Right.
That's good money.
That's
what about
great.
$1 million? He says, Joe, if I hit the lottery, if they would give me $1 million, but they gave somebody $1.8 million to remove the statutes. 3 of them were gone in one day. It is mind-boggling in the fraud perpetrated upon the citizenry of Richmond. And I'm saying that in my capacity of a state senator, and I mean every bit of it.
So let's drill down just for the numbers for a minute, Joe. What type of impact is that going to have per se on the homeowners and the business owners in terms of perhaps a rate and property taxes? What do we?
Listen, if you don't have $1.8 million in one budget in one of your agencies, how are you going to make it up? More taxes, higher real estate taxes. Okay, I fought like hell to prevent the creation of that boondoggle Coliseum. Can you imagine where this city would be right now if we had shelled out, signed a contract to spend $650 million over 30 years to build and pay back a Coliseum?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but that took a lot of effort to get that shut down, But right now, you got to make up that $1.8 million. And, we've got, a young man that's in there, Mr. Stoney, that just has no business experience. He's never run a business. He's never signed the fronts of paychecks. He's never been responsible for paying the light bill, creating work for his employees, finding them and paying for medical coverage. Okay. I just hope and pray that we've got a lot of talent out there now that's running for mayor, and I hope that people respond and demand more from their public servants.
Still speaking of that topic, the governor, of course, endorses Mayor Stoney for re-election. Talk about that.
I've got a lot of regard for Northam, and I saw him yesterday at a function to $4 million that was created to fund 20 legal aid lawyer positions. We had a nice chat, and I was shocked when I saw that he endorsed the mayor. Kim Gray is running, excellent credentials on president of city council. Justin Griffin is running. A lot of experience, a lot of gray matter up there. I disagree with but the governor can do what he wants, but I was shocked.
Well, on our Richmond VA Things to Do page, we have roughly about 5,600 people from Central Virginia area, and there were a lot of people voicing that they weren't going to vote for Stoney, and that I think it was Mike Holborn that said that this political machine that had touted Stoney as the next lieutenant governor and perhaps governor, that there's now some wavering in that, because he's no longer that shining star for the Democratic agenda. Is there a machine around here, Joe, that basically sets up something like that?
Sure there is. And let me tell you, I'm not part of it. When I was running in the Democratic primary, I called that machine out. I said, who are you, Democratic Party, to anoint and appoint people to jobs? Let the citizenry decide who they want. But there's a wonderful fairy tale by Hans Christian Andersen called The Emperor's New Clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And you remember that these con men convinced the emperor that he needs a suit of gold.
Right.
And they're paid large amounts of money to create the suit of gold. And then when it's time to put it on, they put nothing on it. But everybody around him says that they say, oh, that's a beautiful suit of gold. And everybody around him says, yeah, it's wonderful. So he's driving in his chariot down the middle of the parade and he's buck naked.
Right.
And they're talking about his new clothes made of gold. But it takes one little 10-year-old boy that points out and says, Mommy, Daddy, the king is naked, you know? And that facade is becoming clear to people right now. We've got some tremendous talent, people running for governor. In the House of Delegates, Jennifer Carroll Foy, she's a superstar. In my own Senate chamber, we've got the Lieutenant Governor and Jennifer McClellan that's running for governor. On the other side, you got Amanda Chase and probably Kirk Cox running for governor. They are all of them across party lines are accomplished individuals that have done things. Jennifer McClellan is a lawyer and a lawyer for Verizon, and she is very astute with policy. Lieutenant Governor Fairfax is not only Lieutenant Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, he is a former federal prosecutor. His wife's a dentist. He's got a family, as does both Jennifers, and they've done things with their lives. They've had lives outside of the General Assembly. What has the mayor done that would put him in any universe in a position to be governor? He drove Terry McAuliffe around for 8 years. Terry McAuliffe made him an honorary position as Secretary of the Commonwealth.
Okay.
Dispensed patronage positions. And then McAuliffe set him up to run for mayor. He spent 4 years in the governor's cabinet planning to run for mayor. You've got to do something in life. I don't care what it is. You might be a teacher. You might be an artist. You may start a restaurant. You may start a nonprofit. You may be a public defender or a prosecutor. You may practice medicine. You've got to do something outside of politics other than being a political hack. Okay? And the people that have done something outside, you don't have to be a doctor or a lawyer. I don't care if you're a mortician. Mm-hmm. And I don't say that with any disrespect at all.
Right.
But anything, but do something, accomplish something, and then run for office,
Joe, as we get ready to close out this evening, I want to get a what's next for question out here. What's next for, of course, Richmond? What's next for Virginia? And then what's next for us as a country in light of everything that's going on?
Okay. I'm one of the people that believe that what we've experienced in this country with the BLM movement is a good thing. Here's what I mean. There's a revolution that has changed people's mindset. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And it is good. And it's going to make for a better country. Richmond, particularly downtown, it's dark, graffiti laden. Private property has been destroyed. Courthouse glass has been shattered. People on Monument Avenue have their homes defaced. We will come through it. We will be a better people. We will be more sensitive. And I think our better days are ahead in Richmond, in the Commonwealth, in our country. We have statewide elections next year. People need to scrutinize the candidates. What have you done? What have you accomplished? How can you make the Commonwealth a better place? And they don't want to hear about partisan politics.
Right.
They don't want to hear that. I'm an optimist. I see good things ahead, Cruz. There's people like you that are out there getting the message out. I'd like to think that we're friends, but I know one thing: you're a journalist. You're a radio show host. You are holding people accountable. You have to. You have to ask the hard questions. You've got to ask me those questions, and you're doing it now. And the things that you see out in the community, some things that break people's heart, ask the candidates about that. But I think it's going to make us a better people.
Joe, I always appreciate whenever you take time to visit with us tonight, and you've again you kept it 100, and that's why people tune into this show. That's why they want me to bring people like you. They don't want anybody placating to them. They don't want anybody tap dancing around issues. They want it real. They want it raw. And I always like to say thank you, man, for doing that. I know you're off camera, and you're just saying, I want to say this, Sarah. Joe is the same on camera, off camera, no matter if he's at the GA or he's down here on Walmsley or wherever you might see him in Petersburg on Bank Street. Joe is going to be Joe. I'm going to give you the closing words tonight, Joe.
Hey, it's just this, folks. We are on the verge of accomplishing some great things in criminal justice reform, sentencing reform, police reform. We're doing in the special session. Demand action from your politicians. Don't talk. We don't want to just have simple conversations. We want to get things done. And if the politician doesn't get it done, that means me and everybody else. Get somebody in there that will, but be very demanding of your public servants. And listen, here's a tip: never be afraid to call up your legislator, your senator, or your delegate and say, "I need to see you. I want to talk to you about a bill." Because if you're like me, we're going to listen to you. And some of the times your ideas are going to be turned into legislation.
Joe, thanks again, man. It's always a pleasure. And I'm looking forward to having you back when we get some more updates. And I'll
update you when we finish the special session.
Well, thank you so much. Have a great night. Tell the family I said hello. And again, keep fighting for us.
Will do. Thanks, Cruz. Honored to be on your show. Have a good night yourself.
All right. Take care. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. That was State Senator Joe Morrissey from the 16th District. Again, giving us the real and the raw tonight. So if you missed it after the broadcast is finished, you can go to our YouTube channel, which is Cruz Inc. Radio 102.8 TV on YouTube, or you can look at any of the following pages. You'll be able to see the recap and replay on the Cruz Inc. Radio Facebook page, also on the Richmond VA Things to Do page. So thank you for supporting us. Thank you for making us who we are, because without you, there would be no us. Tune in to Cruz Inc. Radio 102.8 24/7. We have smooth jazz, R&B, gospel, and more. As Joe said, we're here. We have a job to do, and we want to do it well. So if there's anything that we can do to get better, to improve on what we do, please let us know. Have a great night, everybody. God bless you. Thank you so much. And as I always say, whatever comes from the heart reaches the heart. You guys have a great evening.